Welcome to Legacy Conversations, a channel where we preserve military memories and history.
Hello, everyone. You know, there's somebody in South African military history who will always be famous. And I think who will stand the test of time as a man, as a soldier, as a human being. It's the late Colonel Jan Breytenbach. And there's a lot of stories about him. We've broadcasted ourselves quite a few. But a while ago, about a week or two ago, well, probably a lot more than a week or two ago, Colonel Stefano Deer of 32 Battalion and later of Directorate of Covert Intelligence. And may I say, a man who knew Colonel Jan very, very well. He sent me a video and he asked me if we can look at this and perhaps just bring it to your attention. And that is a video which is going to follow when I stop talking. The thing here is, I don't know who owns a copyright to this video. And guys, I do not wish to do anybody in with copyright. If you have a genuine claim to a copyright to this video, please contact me. I will credit you and we can talk about it. But I don't really think that copyright exists here, legally speaking. There are many reasons why I say that. It's all over the place anyway. Lots of YouTube channels actually has this video broadcasting it. But since we have a lot of views and since it is our objective here to bring to you the military history of South Africa, this is an important video. So again, I don't want to infringe on you. I really don't. Talk to me if there's a problem. Or otherwise, let us just enjoy the video and hear from Jan himself, where he comes from, how he became, I believe, a navigator in the Royal Navy, in the Air Corps or Air Service. It changed names as the years went along. He should have been a pilot until a rugby injury forced him out of a program, became a navigator, and then, of course, we know what else he did. But let's hear his own story. Thank you for watching. God bless.
I went to school in Wellington Boys High. When I finished my time at school, I had to go look for a job, you see. And I wasn't interested in any old job, so I did a bit of research, if you want to call it that. Then I discovered that they had the South African Defence Force in those days, not just the Army. The South African Defence Force was running I forgot now the name of the unit in Pretoria, where young lads could go to for a year. 1952 thereabouts, yes. Yeah. Anyway, so because when you get to end of your school, the trick, then you've got to go somewhere. You either go to university, which your parents will send you there. I had enough of going to school and that sort of thing. And then I saw this advert in a newspaper. And to the regret of my mother, I applied for a post at this particular organization, and I went there and accepted me, and that's how my military career started. That was for a year. I was there with this organization, and then I went to joined the permanent force, the Army. When I went to the Army College, I went to do the officers course, and while you're doing officers course, you can select where you want to go to when you get your commission. So I selected the tank corps because I had enough of running around and what have you, which I did to the gymnasium, the Army gymnasium. I had enough of that. I wanted to ride in a balloon vehicle for a change.
Then in 1955, Field Cornet Breytenbach joined the British Royal Navy Air Arm.
I grew up near the sea, but not all the time. We used to go to the sea quite a lot. And, so I was sort of fascinated by the sea, by ships and that sort of thing. When I joined the Army in those days, it didn't have much of a navy. So when I was in college, Army college and so on. So they didn't have much of a navy, so I was selected to be an infantryman. Well, so then I got some adverts from a newspaper or somewhere, I don't know what it was, where they were asking for chaps who wanted to join the Fleet Air Arm, the Royal Navy, you see. And that time, those days, we were still part of the Commonwealth. So I applied for a job to be accepted by them, the Fleet Air Arm, to be trained as an aviator. Anyway, so then I discovered to my disgust that I had to pay to go to Britain. I had to pay for my accommodation there. And if I didn't make it, I would have to come back all the way again. I didn't have the money. So I went and joined, I became a prospector for diamonds for a short while, Anglo-American in South Africa, to get enough money to go to the UK. And I had been, I received a letter from the Royal Navy that I had to be in London at such and such a date, and so I had enough money to resign from my job. I got on a ship, and I went to England, and a week or two later, I attended this selection course that they were having, and I was accepted, and then I had a job in the Navy, the Royal Navy, just like that, you see. First of all, I had to go and do my flying training. While you did your medicals and so on, I joined the Fleet Air Arm. So I had to do my flying training first, I forgot the name of one of them now, one of the places where I went to, it's in Britain, where I was being to train as a pilot. And but then, of course, they discovered I was South African. So all South Africans can play rugby. And so I was selected to the first first rugby team, to play against, I forgot now what the organization was, who we played against. And anyway, I played against them, eventually against them. And I was still doing my flying training. And so they tackled me. Well, I was playing centre. I was tackled, and my knee was totally buggered up, and everything was buggered up, and what have you. So I couldn't fly now. I had to stop flying. Couldn't get into the aeroplane. So they said to me, "Sorry, your flying training is over as a pilot." And so now I was stuck. So I said, "Now, when is the next pilot's course?" They said, "No, well, in another 6 months or whatever." So, but I haven't got any money. They said, "Well, that's your bloody problem." So anyway, but why don't you go to Colrose? You could train you as a navigator. So when do we start? They said, "Well, next week." You see. So anyway, so I went from Sarston, which is where I did my flying training, to Colrose to carry on with flying training, still flying training, but now aimed at navigation. And I qualified, and after about, I think it's about 18 months, I even got a drinking cup, because I came top of the course, you see. From there, I was posted to Yeovilton, and to specialize in all-weather fighting aircraft, AWC. And did my flying training, well, carried on with my training there, got qualified, and then I was posted to a all-weather fighter squadron, just in time to set off to the Far East. That was great. Not for the Far East, to the Mediterranean.
In 1956, a dispute over the Suez Canal in Egypt led to international crisis and war. Two fading colonial powers, Britain and France, expected an easy victory over Egypt, but were forced into a humiliating withdrawal as the world's new superpowers flexed their muscles.
part of my training with the Fleet Air Arm was to go onto an aircraft carrier at some time or another, you see, to show how they work, to figure out how it works. Then the Suez Canal thing came up. And so I was posted to HMS Ocean, one of the carriers. I wasn't flying yet, but I was qualified. I was an officer, a sub-lieutenant, and I know my seamanship and that sort of thing. So I went into Ocean. Ocean was the aircraft carrier, so that's my first contact I had with any war. It was a rather big scale. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Well, nothing much happened to me except that the bloody jib opened up on me with a Bren gun when I was going around the small boat to check up the ships in the harbour for because they had frogmen and we must have to keep them at bay. And that's the closest I came to war actually in that big blooming thing that happened. I didn't realize it was that big. When we were going back to the UK, we disembarked at Malta, and that's where I had my biggest, closest I got to war was in Malta. When I got my suit on, went ashore, then I went into to a street known as the Gut in Malta itself to look around a bit and so forth. And when I got I was between the two streets. I was in the one street and I went through a square, came out the other side, and there was a bloody big fight going on. The Royal Marines Commando, 44 Royal Marine Commando, was climbing into the North Maltese police because what evidently happened was that this guy was arrested by the Maltese police and was beaten up by the police, Maltese police. And I actually remember walking across the flight deck of the carrier I was in, seeing this 45 Royal Marine Commando all formed up, and the commanding officer addressing them. And she said, "Gentlemen, tonight we're going to go ashore and beat up all police we can find." And this is what happened. So I said, "Hell, this is great stuff, you know. I mean, I wish I'd joined the Royal Marines." They were then coming back to the Suez War. Anyway, so from there I left. I did my flying training, got qualified as in England, of course. I got qualified as a navigator observer, and then I posted to 894 Squadron after I did my training as a navigator. All the fighter squad, but I was posted to a Sea Venom Squadron. We went back to the Mediterranean in a carrier, spent some time there, came back, did some further shore jobs. Altogether, I think I was in 4 or 5 different aircraft carriers. But we ended up in the end in the carrier going off to the Far East, HMS Albion. And spent the whole year in the Far East, flying and so on, operational flying. In fact, it was pretty dicey because we lost something like 25% of our aircrew. So, of course, I was always the fighters. And when you are operationally deployed, you fly, no matter what the weather. You see, the thing is that I couldn't stay in the Royal Navy after we left the Commonwealth. I could if I became an Englishman, which I nearly did. I would have become an Englishman straight away because I've been there long enough. But at the same time, South Africa was having a rough time. I thought, no, hell, I better go back to my country. And by that time, I was already married. And we had a little boy, and we came back to South Africa. When I got back, I obviously went to, all I could do was join a military organization. So I went to Pretoria, applied for a job in the army.
Then re-enlisted as a lieutenant, his new South African Defence Force career started in March 1960. By retirement, he was decorated twice, and had received 9 other medals.
While doing this, I ran into a chap by the name of Willem Low, General, he was a commandant, or Lieutenant Colonel. And he said, "Now, what the hell are you doing here?" I said, "No, well, I've come back from the UK. I'm rejoining the army." I said, what? I said, I'm going to go to tanks. He said, no, man, don't be bloody stupid. Come and join the paratroopers. I said, what, paratroopers? He said, yes, I'm the commanding officer of one Paris battalion. I said, okay, so I joined the paratroopers. Anyway, so one thing led to another, and I became a paratrooper.
In 1962, not having much infantry experience, Lieutenant Breytenbach was sent to Fort Benning in the United States to attend an 11-month-long infantry course. On August 26, 1966, Captain Breytenbach and 9 parabats participate in Operation Blauwildebeest, where the first shots of the border war was fired.
Of course, to get more experience and so on, some years later, we wanted to start a SAS type organization inside South Africa. So they sent me and some other guys off to Rhodesia then to go do the SAS training with the Rhodesians and acceptance. I had to go through the whole rigmarole there. That is why I can now also call myself a Rhodesian, having served in the Rhodesian army and having passed all my whatever I had to pass. There were only a few of us passed, the rest didn't make it. So from then on, I and the Rhodesians worked very closely with me, or I with them.
Then in 1967 a civil war started in Nigeria.
Like many African countries, Nigeria was the creation of imperial draftsmen. Within its boundaries, the British had brought together 3 great tribal traditions. In the north lived the Fulani and their Hausa vassals. The British had left intact their feudal privileges. In the west, Yoruba rulers had found new tokens of power and prestige. In the east, where the Igbos were the major tribe, British influence had come through mission and school. With their educational advantage, the Igbos spread throughout the country as traders and public servants. But in the impoverished north, their presence was not always welcome. In 1966, the bubble of resentment that had been building for years against the Igbos burst in a rage of communal violence. Northern civilians and soldiers rose in a vicious ethnic pogrom. Thousands of Igbos lost their lives. Hundreds of thousands more fled home to the east. When the federal government proved incapable of halting the pogroms, Ojukwu, then a colonel and military governor of eastern Nigeria, grasped the opportunity. Showing from the first a gift for propaganda, Ojukwu mobilized the Igbos for secession from the north.
This is not an occasion to stir up emotions, but it is impossible to forget that men, women, and children of our kith and kin were taken out of their beds and slaughtered. They were massacred in places of worship, in the streets, in marketplaces, and in vehicles trying to carry them to safety.
What's happening here, in fact, is that Nigeria is beginning to split into some of its constituent parts.
In May 1967, Ojukwu finally took his people out of Nigeria. The Afro was proclaimed. The Nigerian government uncompromisingly opposed Ojukwu's rebellion. With their military superiority guaranteed, their position was simple. The Afro was a part of Nigeria and would remain so. Ojukwu's army prepared for war with only a handful of real guns.
By N 1968, Major Breytenbach was transferred to Southwest Africa Command as a staff officer in the training division. Later in 1969, he and 3 others partook in Operation Pelican in support of the Bavarian rebels.
Our government got involved with Biafra. I got no idea, the political side of it. I was just called in by Willem Lowe and told that you get yourself some guys and you go off to Biafra because we are committed to that. So to train there, the Biafran troops, because of course they're fighting against the rest of the country. You see. They're not properly trained. So off we went, and I think we did quite a good job, except that the whole thing was started too late again as usual. And if we'd gone in, say, 6 months earlier, the Biafrans would have won the war, but it was too late again. I only had a handful of guys, 4 or 5 guys, we were all together. But we were just getting operational, and we were just sorting out the enemy, as it were, when the whole thing collapsed, and we had to get out. We weren't strong enough yet. We had documentation and all that sort of thing, you see. So I couldn't use, of course, Breytenbach, so I used the surname Carpenter. And ever since then, they called me Carpenter. Or I use it also. If you go and work with, for instance, in Angola, you make contact with the local people they're fighting against the government. You use not your own name, but you use another name. So I used the name Carpenter eventually, and eventually Carpenter stuck more than Breytenbach did. So it happened a few times. Hello, Mr. Carpenter, and how are you? You see, and I click. I turn around. Hello, Carpenter. Yeah, hello, who are you? And I say, then somebody else are you talking to you? You got you're one of the local people that are with you. You see, a friend of yours, and you talk to these guys as Carpenter and so on and so on and so forth. And then they'll finish talking with them, and this chap says, "Who the hell is this Carpenter? I thought you were called Breytenbach. That's your surname, isn't it?" Yes, of course it is. So then, of course, then it stuck. From then on, they started calling me Carpenter. So everybody knew Carpenter was actually Breytenbach, so it lost the reason for being called Carpenter. It flew out of the window, you see. So that's how they called me. I call it Carpenter. You see, as I said, we went to Rhodesia to do our selection, as it were, and that is where I met up with the SAS. I passed the SAS selection, and I did a lot of work with them and so on. So I wrote a letter to the Chief of the Army, Willem Low at the time, and where I wanted us to get a similar organization to the SAS in the South African Army. You highly trained guys, which you can deploy anywhere in Africa, to train other people to do their job properly. You see, that's mainly what's behind it. So anyway, so Willem Low sent me off to the SAS. Well, he sent me off to the SAS. So he then, he said, Chief of the Army, I think he was already Chief of the Army. So he said I had to start a SAS type organization here in South Africa. They fell for it. So I did. That's where the recce's come from. So I went around various organizations, the South Africa Army organizations, and I got some guys who took them through a selection course. And that's where we formed one reconnaissance commando. And I was the first commander. And I sent guys up to Rhodesia to get some more combat experience. And it just so happened that our own situation also developed in such a way that we fitted in very well, especially in Southwest Africa and other places like that, you see. And so we ended up operating across the border in Angola. And that is what we needed. You see, we didn't have that before. And so just when things are running very nicely and what have you, I was then ordered to go on a staff course. We were posted to Oudtshoorn, and that is where I wanted the recce's to be, because we got the sea nearby, we've got the mountains, we've got the bush, we've got jungle, you've got everything here in Oudtshoorn, you see. And it went very well. But then, of course, you can't stay in a unit forever. The moment it started going very well, another guy comes after me, and I go and do what? Staff duties course. Because I could have gone before, but I was so taken up with forming this unit. I didn't want to, you see. Of course, we deployed up in the border, all of us.
In 1972, Commandant Breytenbach was in command of a team operating in Dar es Salaam. He was awarded the Van Riebeeck Decoration.
They have their own guerrilla forces, as it were fighting against the government of the day. And the government of the day was against South Africa. So we were going to support their, you can say their guerrillas, as it were, and we were going to give them some kind of support. So we had to go there in a way that they'll never know the South Africans actually doing the job. And this job was to go and blow things up at Dar es Salaam. It doesn't matter what, as long as you blow it up, you see. So that was the intention. Anyway, so we went by submarine to all the way from South Africa, and we went in there. The submarine dumped us, went back, and then we went ashore after dark, obviously. Dress a service. There were only 4 of us, and well, like you are dressed like that, but you carry your demolition stuff with you and so on. And we put a demolition here and demolition there. Not exactly the kind of military style of targets would we any target would do, because we were pretending to be supposed to pretend to be members of the then organization which was against their government, their own black guerrillas, you see. And we had to try and do it the black guerrilla way. So we planted a bomb against the smart car of the British ambassador, and bomb here and a bomb there, and some one of the there's a bridge going across the river mouth. We planted bombs there, and then we just got in the kayaks, got back, and it went off while we still watching it from a distance, and all the lights went out in Dar es Salaam, and in due course the submarine came in and picked us up, and that was it, you see. So I don't know what we achieved by it, because it nothing to do with me. It's just the O's up there, what they want to achieve. I presume they achieved something. And yeah, and that was the beginning actually of doing this sort of stuff, you see. That it worked very well, actually. And the big thing about guerrilla warfare is you mustn't look like a guerrilla. You mustn't try to be a guerrilla. You must try to look like the local people, you see. Be some of them. And that is what I tried to bring into the recce's. I had a fallout with the general in command because he posted us, the whole unit posted from Oudtshoorn to the Bluff in Durban. So I objected. I said, no, you can't have this unit. It's a specialist unit, number one. Every man in that unit must be a specialist at fighting a battle. And that meant that every day, every morning, by Oudtshoorn, the first thing we did is go into the shooting range and shoot our weapons to keep your hand in, you see. You can't do it in the Bluff. This is in the middle of bloody Durban, you know. But the Oudtshoorn, I could do it. So I said to the gentleman, I can't train the people properly on the Bluff. No, but that is, you are sticking out you should Oudtshoorn in Durban. They won't know that you are there. And also, I said, that's what it's about. It's about training preparation. There's nothing strange about our training or preparation. It's like any other blooming unit, except we just do it better. That's all. And we select the guys. And of course, this gentleman didn't like to be, mounted by a commandant. So he said, "You will do it," or so I said, "No, I'm not happy with that." So then he transferred me, you see, and he got another guy in to do it, Jake Swart, And right, they moved to the Bluff, and I had to move to the headquarters. So I ended up being posted to Army headquarters. As SO1 Special Operations, you see. So then I said to the general, I said, what do you mean by SO1 Special Operations? What is that? So he said, well, you're a staff officer of Special Operations. In other words, I don't know what you really do. To this day, I don't know what you're supposed to do as SO1, because I was Special Operations anyway, you see. So anyway, I just sat there. I had nothing to do. Because this general, he was already retired, but they brought him back. He was doing everything, you see. Every time I tried to do something, he would negative it and do it his way. So in the end, I went on strike. So I moved into the operations room, where everybody could see me. And I went in there with cowboy books and so on. And I read one cowboy book after the other. I did bugger all day. Every now and again, people would move into the operations room with all their funny guys there, and they brief each other and what have you. And they all stare at me, sitting there in a corner, reading cowboy books. And so this went on for quite a while.
The Angolan Civil War was a major civil conflict, beginning immediately after Angola became independent from Portugal in November 1975. The civil war that followed was essentially a power struggle between two former liberation movements. The People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola, the MPLA, and the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, UNITA. Washington had ruled out intervention with American troops. Instead, it turned secretly to South Africa to become involved militarily. The splintered FNLA troops needed to be regrouped into a fighting unit. This would require an experienced leader to take command.
Three-year general for Yun. He was then a brigadier. He walked in there to be briefed by one of the staff officers there about what's going on somewhere, I don't know where, somewhere in Africa, you see, because Stoffstreep was then involved with the war going on north of the border in Angola and so forth. So he listened to this and he was briefed and so on, and so he turned around and the Falyun turned around, he saw me sitting, he said, "What are you doing, Jan?" I said, "I'm doing fuck all." So what do you mean by that? So I said, "Because I've got fuck all to do." I went to see Constant Constant Falyun at lunchtime, and then he asked me what am I doing? So I said, I'm doing that. I already told him before. I said, I'm doing fuck all. You see. So right, you're on a plane tomorrow to the border, and you must go and train some blacks. You report to a senior officer there. They're expecting you. That's what you've got to do. Tomorrow you fly. So the next day I was on the plane to the border, and I reported there. Forgotten the name of the guy now. I reported to him. You see, then I discovered that I had to sort of organize these blacks who were against their own government. We were all down on the border, as it were, and I've got to train them, etc. And I'm going to get some guys as instructors, and to train them to fight against the communists, the Cubans, and so on. Oh, that's okay, fine, great, I'll do that. But I had to do it at a place called Mapupa. Mapupa's inside Angola, and that's where these guys were. I had to go into Angola. So I had to go there and find out what must be done. So they flew me there by plane, And I looked at this lot, and it was a mess. It really was. I mean, the guys didn't have shoes, they didn't have clothing, they had nothing. Amongst about 20 guys, maybe you find one with a rifle and so forth, and that was it, you see. I mean, they were literally staggering around. They can't even walk probably because they were so hungry. And they had no boots on their feet. They looked scruffy. They sat down all the time because they couldn't walk anywhere because they were hungry, you see. And I must prepare these troops to invade Angola, which was a different kettle of fish. Not just for their survival. Now I must train them to be aggressive, to fight, or to attack, and not just to defend themselves. So I got stuck in. I got more equipment. I got mortars and machine guns and all sorts of bloody things. And most important of all, I got boots for the troops and clothing for them to wear, etc., etc. They've already been organizing companies, and I had already had company commanders who were youngsters, so it went very well for us. And so off we went to war in the end. I think what they expected, my troops expected, because they were F9A, what they expected was they were going to get a slice of Angola. It's going to be theirs. And similarly, I think the UNITA guys were going to have a slice and somebody else going to have a slice, typically cutting up the country in a different whatever. We had the wherewithal to drive, to transport them as the normal lorries and trucks, which the civilians in Angola used. I think they confiscated them or whatever. And we had some of those, and we had some African army vehicles as well, camouflage, of course. And so off we went to war. Fortunately, the enemy we were fighting against was bloody useless, because I didn't train my troops for the conventional war. I trained my troops for a guerrilla war, which is totally different, you see. Now they got to operate as platoons and companies and battalions. And the mortars had to fit in with that kind of blooming organization. And we've got a different kind of war which are fighting. But they clicked very well. And some of the guys were, of course, from the old Portuguese army, in the black guys. And so they knew more or less what was going on as well.
Commandant Breytenbach's FNLA fighters became known as Bravo Group under command of Task Force Zulu. By end December 1975, Commandant Breytenbach returned to Chief Staff Operations where a new mission was waiting. Early January 1976, Colonel Breytenbach returned to Mpupa to continue training the FNLA. By March 1976, the force at Mpupa was relocated and 32 Battalion was formed.
There was, yeah, it was the re-equipping and what have you, and the resettling of the Angolan troops were coming across the border, who I brought back with me across the border. You see. Now the idea was that for us, when we started supporting FNLA, was that when our time is up, I'm talking about the white troops now, they all go back. And I go back and whatever, we all go back. Maybe as things happen in a combat situation, people get replaced and more people come in and others go back and so on. But I jumped in such a way that the platoon leaders especially, them and the command guys, that they stay there. And I must also say this about the white troops, white commanders, lieutenants and captains and majors. Because we're fighting a war, actually fighting a war, they prefer to stay with 32 Battalion, with Bravo Group, you see. So I didn't have to do any convincing to keep them with me. They wanted to be there to start off with, you see. So now we of course, this had the added, shall we say, perhaps a little bit of a problem, is that the platoon leaders and the company commanders got so attached to their companies and platoons that they will even take me on. You see, if I, for for instance, do something or say something or give an order of something which they feel is not right for the troops, they will say no, neer kolonel. Ons moet beter so en so nie. And then I've got a job on my hands to convince them that my way is perhaps a better way. But on the other hand, sometimes their way is a better way. They got closely involved. What I'm trying to say is the white commanders got closely involved with their black troops because they're proud of them. And the black troops got so attached to the tenentes that I had a hell of a job to replace one tenente with another one. There's not a platoon leader. So they just refuse to work with another tenente. They want their tenente, which happened a few times. They want their tenente back. You see? Now, to me, that was great. It made me smile from ear to ear because it showed these guys that found each other. My tenentes, my lieutenants, my captains, majors, they were so attached to the troops they would do anything for them. At the same time, the troops would do so much for the tenente, the commander, they would follow me anywhere. And that is what I wanted, you see. What happened was that, especially after the Savannah story, these guys came back and we carried on the fight against the enemy. And because we were still fighting. I mean, they're not South African whites. We're now going to go back home. They are there. They're bringing their families back, and I could use them against the guerrillas or terrorists organizations, which were mostly Southwest African people. I could send them across and sort them out on the other side, you see, because they were Angolans. The Swapus, they were not Angolans. We were South Africans, but with Angolan troops under our command, you see, and so on. So their loyalty, the Angolans were loyal to white South Africa because they saw all the only people they saw were South African, which they could relate with, were the white South African commanders in command of the companies, platoons, and of the unit. So there was no thing. There's no separate development, apartheid. I cut that out right from the beginning because we were working with Angolans where there was no separate development there, apartheid there in the days of the Portuguese. So I brought the thing, the same system over to us, but unlike the Portuguese, we respected the blacks. Well, Gert was switched on as far as how units are being run, which I was not. I mean, he knows that you've got to, if before you can get another vehicle, you must do this and that and the other, fill in this and fill in that and the other. He could do that, which I didn't know. Well, I probably supposed to know, but I didn't take any notice of it. It's far easier to steal something than it is to put in to draw something out of from the quartermaster. If you steal it, they don't even know it's gone, and it's gone, well, when it's too late. And so you don't have to account for it anyway. Once you've stolen it, you don't have to account for it. You see. Nobody comes around and says, you've got so many vehicles on your strength, and now I'm going to count them, and so on. Eventually, it probably, it has happened. They come back and say, but you've got more of this stuff than you're supposed to have. Not knowing that we stole most of it anyway, you see, that sort of thing. So I kept these people at bay. Gert was good at it, keeping people at bay. And because we operate both sides of the border, we could get away with it, with stealing other people's kit. Because they can't go after you into Angola to go get it back. But you don't bring it back across, especially vehicles. I stole other people's vehicles, you see. But that means the vehicle's got to stay on the other side now. The moment you get to this side, the police come and they reclaim it, and somebody's in trouble, and normally I. And so, well, I didn't want to leave. You see, now, in my career, was also sort of spelled out by the army. I had to go on a staff duties course in this particular case, and I missed the first time I was supposed to go. I said, no, I don't want to because the battalion's not ready. Then I don't think they're ready yet that I could leave them to go on a staff duties course. And you've got to have a staff duties course before you can get any further promotion. So I didn't go. Then the second time it happened. Then the third time it happened again, and then I went to see General Gleason. I said, well, I can't go because of you, this, that, and the other, 32 Battalion. And so he said, you've got no choice in this matter. You are going. So I said, no, General, I'm not. I said, you didn't hear me properly. It's an order. You are going. You see, so then that is where I said goodbye to 32 Battalion.
After completing the 12-month staff course, Colonel Breytenbach was transferred to Northern Transvaal Command as Senior Staff Officer. On May 4, 1978, Colonel Breytenbach commanded the airborne attack on Cassinga, Operation Reindeer.
That was after I did my staff duties course. I was then SSO Northern Transvaal Command. And then this Cassinga thing popped up. And so I was of course a paratrooper, you see. General Viljoen, yeah, he called me in and they said that I would, because I'm a paratrooper, and I knew the bush pretty well from my 32 Battalion days, I would have to go and sort out the base, Cassinga, the Swapo base. Swapo base in Cassinga, which meant we would have to jump in. Of course, I'm a paratrooper as well. And I must now start this training these guys and so forth. And his last words were, you must make them fit because all bloody unfit. And so I'm talking about paratroopers now, white paratroopers. Right, and so that is where I got back into the combat line again. But there's something on its own. 32 Battalion, at least the paratrooper attack on Cassinga was something that was totally out of the blue. And it was a one-off affair anyway. It was a battalion drop. So we could muster a battalion drop with great difficulty. Because over the years, we trained paratroopers, but they didn't always right for especially as you grow older, to go and attack a base like that with a parachute assault. And of course, other constrictions as well. I mean, the Air Force could only take so many guys in the aeroplanes, which they had available. And the distance that you've got to go is quite deep inside Angola. So your air support, air combat support is dependent on that. So in the end, you end up with a specific sized unit, which you can do the job with. A lot of training is needed. We have to call them up then. All civilians. They were a small group of national servicemen as well, but mostly civilians were in civilian jobs. So I've got to retrain them and pull them up and make them fit again. You see, to jump into a operation where you're hundreds of kilometers away from the border and so forth. And training itself would take a long time, but they were all keen to go. They were not fit. They were all keen to go. I had to get them fit. And that meant running every day with kit and so on and so forth. And fortunately, I also had quite a reasonable time to retrain them and to get them into fit and so forth. So by the time the operation went in, they all good. They could do it. Yeah. Well, we wiped out all the Swapers to start off with. Well, that basically destroyed from one end to the other. You see, and this was the headquarters of Dimu Amambo, who was the commander of Swapo, and all their logistics were there and so forth. So we destroyed the base. What actually happened, what's important to me is that Swapo was concentrating on that base, and they're being retrained for massive incursion into northern Southeast Africa, especially into the black areas and so on. They wanted to as it were, destroy the Boer sort of fist that was holding the whatever the South Africans under their control. They wanted to destroy that. And that is what was happening in Kasinga. All of the training was taking place there. The command staff were there as well, and the Russians were also there. Fidel Castro's guys too, also they were training them for this incursion, massive incursion into northern Southwest Africa. You see, so we were just in time to stop that nonsense by attacking the most important base, which was the Kasinga base, where the headquarters was. The Russian, what's the name, guys were there to advise them, to train them, and also Cubans there. Of course, they gapped it. They were the first to run like hell when they saw the guys jumping out of aeroplanes. So they just gapped it. They were gone. We might have killed some of them, but I don't know whether we did or not. Especially the preliminary bombardment. Yeah, it was actually a very nice operation. That I really enjoyed it. But, strange it was too. That we done quickly, in and out sort of thing, but we did it very well. Of course, we exercised. We ran it through. I called up the guys and we did over and over and over again in training ground near Tempe, and that was great. But then after the Kasinga story, I was called in by Fortune and said I must get the Paris Brigade off the ground. So then I started with that. You see, there were paratroopers were doing the training, the 2 years training, and so on. Then they were allocated to various CF parachute units, but nothing happened. You see, and that is when Kasinga came along. I had to go through a long series of training to get them ready for this particular attack. So therefore, the paratroopers were not ready to go into battle like that immediately. So that was my main concern. And then I was posted then as the initially as the commander of the brigade commander, but then eventually another guy came in as brigade commander, and I had to take second seat. But I still kept on with the training of the paratroopers, each unit by itself.
Later in 1983, Colonel Breytenbach established the South African Guerrilla Warfare School, where he served until his retirement in 1987. Colonel Breytenbach's decorations and medals is a testimony of his remarkable military career.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to receive notifications.